Chichester, a city of ancient origins, offers a delightful blend of historic wonders and modern attractions. Founded by the Romans almost 2,000 years ago, its well-preserved Roman walls encircle a charming city centre where you can explore the magnificent Chichester Cathedral with its stunning spire and unique bell tower. Join us as we wander the streets, highlighting many of the historic sites, and watch to the end to see a few of the delightful villages surrounding the only city in West Sussex. Chichester is a compact, very walkable city close to the southern coast of England. You can reach it by train direct from London Victoria in 1 hour and 33 minutes. The station is a 5-minute walk from the centre.
Well, we're standing right in the centre of Chichester, just by the market cross that was built in 1501. It's a perfect place for us to start our tour around Chichester. The 4 main streets, north, south, east and west, that the Romans built when they arrived here, all end at the centre here in the market square. So we'll go round the quadrants and show you some of the sights here.
Whilst there is evidence of an Iron Age settlement on this site, it was the Romans who mapped out the main streets as we know them today. They arrived in Britain in 43 AD and within a year built a fort on the site that would become Chichester. It was near a much needed water source, the River Lavant, and a harbour was also just a few miles away, allowing supplies to arrive from France. It became an important town with fortified walls, some of which can still be seen today if you walk the perimeter of the city. 4 gateways controlled passage into the centre, but these have long since been demolished. Novio Margus Reginorum was its Roman name, and brass plaques on the pavement near each gateway remind us of its Roman heritage, as do many other Roman remains dotted about the city. Let's start our walk down West Street, away from the Market Cross. The Dolphin and Anchor building, with its emblems still visible on the parapets, occupies a prominent position on West Street, stretching from the corner of Chapel Street. Currently housing various retailers, this building was once the Dolphin and Anchor Hotel as 2 separate coaching inns in competition for coach passenger traffic to and from London. The Dolphin and the Anchor merged in 1910, and the hotel operated under the joint name until its sale in 1996. After the Romans, the Anglo-Saxons inhabited the town from the early 5th century. In 890, King Alfred the Great would designate it a burh, a fortified town, continuing to use the thick Roman walls for protection against Viking raids. When the Normans defeated them in 1066, a local lord, Roger de Montgomery, was given Chichester as thanks for his support of William the Conqueror. Montgomery would build a castle, and we'll see what's left of that later in the walk. Just 10 years after the invasion, this wonderful cathedral's construction began in 1075, 950 years ago this year. Using stone quarried on the Isle of Wight, it was built relatively quickly, in just 32 years. It was consecrated in 1108 and then dedicated to St. Richard in 1276, and here we see a statue of him. Sadly, the cathedral was devastated by 2 fires in less than 100 years. This saw the destruction of the wooden roof and eastern end. Bishop Siegfried II built a stone-vaulted roof and remodelled much of the building. The ground beneath the church has a history of subsidence. This has caused instability in the cathedral's structure over the centuries. In fact, a few tower collapses have been caused by this issue. The southwest tower of the facade collapsed in 1210, and the northwest tower collapsed in 1635. Around 1400, the cathedral's spire, cloisters and bell tower were built. Chichester is unique in that the bell tower seen before us is completely separate from the main cathedral, a consequence of the unstable ground and a clever solution to ensure the safety and longevity of both the bells and the cathedral itself. However, in 1861, the tower and spire developed huge cracks and caved in on itself. A 5-year program of rebuilding has so far successfully stopped any further disasters. The nave showcases the cathedral's Norman origins with its massive pillars and rounded arches. The Arundel screen, constructed across the chancel arch at the cathedral crossing, separates the choir and the nave. It was originally built in the 15th century. Bishop John Arundel, 1459–77, may have installed it, although an earlier date has been suggested. Until the Reformation, the only opening in the screen was a gate in the central arch, and the 2 side arches were blocked and used for altars to saints. It was dismantled in 1859 to open the cathedral up for worship in the nave. Unfortunately, this revealed cracks in the crossing piers, causing the spire to fall in 1861. Stored for years, it was for a time erected in the bell tower. In 1961, the screen was placed back in its original position, with the 3 arches opened to provide a view of the high altar. The south transept of the cathedral boasts a stunning glass window dating back to 1877. It is adorned with vivid illustrations depicting scenes from both the Old and New Testament, offering a visual narrative of biblical stories. Another point of interest lies along the west wall, where large painted wooden panels command attention. These panels of national significance are celebrated as the Tudor Charter paintings. Created in the 1530s by the local artist Lambert Barnard, they are believed to be the largest of their kind still in existence, making them a truly unique artistic treasure. The north transept, once part of a pre-cathedral church dedicated to St. Peter, houses another set of Tudor paintings by Lambert Barnard. These paintings are portraits of the bishops of Chichester, and they all share the same features, those of Bishop Robert Sherborne, who commissioned the paintings in the 1530s. As Sherborne's court painter, Barnard likely intended this as flattery. Located in the eastern end of the cathedral, Chichester's choir is separated from the nave by the Arundel screen and situated below the crossing. The prebendal stalls in the choir were provided by Bishop Langton in the 1330s and largely survived the fall of the tower in 1861. They retain much of the original fabric, though the majority of the panelling and upper work of the stalls dates from the 19th century restoration. The high altar, considered the spiritual heart of the church, symbolises the Holy Table, a sacred space for offerings of gifts and prayers to God. The vibrant tapestry behind immediately captures visitors' attention upon entering the cathedral. Commissioned by Dean Hussey and installed in 1966, the tapestry is by British artist John Piper. Several panels utilise bold colours and striking imagery to depict the central subject of the Holy Trinity. One of the cathedral's most famous artworks was completed in 1978. It took 9 years from the initial meetings between Dean Hussey and the Russian-born painter Mark Chagall to the unveiling of the piece. The stained glass is known for its strong colours and unusual imagery, offering a celebratory representation of Psalm 150, "O praise God in his holiness, let everything that hath breath praise the Lord." Saint Richard of Chichester was the Bishop of Chichester from 1245 to 1253. He was canonised 9 years after his death and is the patron saint of Sussex. The shrine was destroyed in 1538 during the Reformation on the orders of King Henry VIII. In 1931, an altar was restored to the original site of the shrine. This vibrant tapestry contains symbols, biblical in origin, relating to the life of St. Richard. The outbreak of the English Civil War in 1642 saw parliamentary forces take control of the city, ransacking Chichester Cathedral in the process. It took until after the restoration of the monarchy in 1660 for a programme of restoration to be instigated and undo the damage. The Lady Chapel is one of the most tranquil areas within the cathedral, situated in the most eastern part, opposite the shrine of St. Richard. The stained glass windows are all by Clayton and Bell of London, portraying scenes from the life of Jesus and the important part that the Virgin Mary played in his life. The remains of a Roman house, including sections of a mosaic tiled floor, lie beneath the centre and eastern end of the cathedral. These can be seen through a glass walkway in the south aisle. The Arundel tomb, located in the north aisle, was relocated from Lewes Priory after its dissolution in 1537. The tomb features a chest with the figures of Richard FitzAlan, 2nd Earl of Arundel, and his wife Eleanor of Lancaster holding hands. The tomb is widely recognised today for its influence on Philip Larkin's 1955 poem An Arundel Tomb and its poignant final line, "What will survive of us is love."
So the cathedral is free to enter. I obviously encourage you to give a donation, which we've done. So a lovely little walk around inside. Fairly small cathedral, but some beautiful interior designs, that's for sure.
The 15th century cloisters have served as a bustling passageway for over 600 years, connecting the cathedral to the historic Cathedral Close and the picturesque Bishop's Palace Gardens, which we'll visit later in the video. The path leads us out onto Cathedral Green, for what is probably the best place to see the magnificent cathedral before we rejoin West Street to continue our walk. This rather sad-looking old House of Fraser building was in 1906 the Oliver Whitby School and replaced an earlier building. The school was founded in 1702 and gave a good education to poor children of Chichester. It was also known as the Blue Coat School, after the distinctive long blue coats worn by the scholars. It closed in 1950. The former church of St. Peter the Great was completed in 1852 despite the seemingly medieval appearance. By the 1970s, church attendance had declined and St. Peter's closed in 1979. The building has served various commercial purposes and is now the Duke Public House. Prebendal School dates back to the 11th century and the foundation of the cathedral, making it the oldest school in Sussex. It would have originally been a song school for the cathedral choristers. This tradition remains at the heart of the Prebendal today, with choristers continuing to live and learn here alongside other local boys and girls. Number 23 is a lovely Georgian townhouse. This was the home of Leslie Evershed Martin, founder of the Chichester Festival Theatre. Named after wealthy city maltster John Eads, who passed away before its completion in 1696, Eads House is a stunning building built with brick, stone and a tiled roof. At the time, all other city buildings were timber framed with thatch roofs. The property had coach houses, stables and outbuildings, plus 3 acres of meadowland situated behind the house. But if you walk to the side of the property today, you'll see the grounds of the West Sussex County Council. Reaching the end of West Street, some roadworks were improving the pedestrian walkways. This roundabout was the site of the old West Gate, demolished in 1773. A tiny part of the masonry from the gate can still be seen abutting the old cottage restaurant, where you will see a descriptive plaque. Beside this is the Chichester Inn, formerly the Castle and Three Kings, one of the city's traditional pubs which is said to be haunted by the ghost of a Roman soldier. The inn was built around 1692 in the ruins of a house destroyed in the English Civil War. Across from the inn is a small road called North Walls. If we follow that, it'll bring us up onto a section of the Roman walls which will guide us around to North Street. Whilst a town was founded in the 1st century, the walls were built later in the 3rd century when it had grown prosperous. They protected the town from coastal raiders and invaders, safeguarding its trade and status within the Roman province. The walls were a significant undertaking. They stand at 7 meters high and were built using facing stones, chalk and flint fill. They originally had around 60 to 70 bastions, defensive towers, of which 4 remain today. By the Victorian era, sections of the walls had fallen into disrepair or were altered to accommodate roads and buildings. The Edwardians took a renewed interest in preserving historic structures. This led to a restoration effort focusing on repairing and in some cases reconstructing parts of the Roman walls. Over 80% of the original structure is still standing. You can follow the walls on foot for nearly 1.5 miles. There's a designated trail with markers and information panels like this one to provide historical context. This depicts the walls being repaired again during the 100-Year War with France, when repeated French invasion attempts damaged the city. We have reached North Street. Where another gatehouse would have protected an entrance into the city, I sadly failed to find the plaque at this entrance. We'll head back into the centre in the Market Cross, but we'll dive down a few of the side streets for some interesting finds. We are approaching the imposing Harbour Hotel, constructed between 1804 and 6. This was originally the home of Admiral Sir George Murray, who was renowned for his command alongside Lord Nelson at the 1801 Battle of Copenhagen. Further down the street is a statue of the men together. It's rumoured that Nelson intended for Murray to be the second in command at Trafalgar, but Murray was unable to participate due to a family bereavement and sorting out the estate. Like his brother Richard, who resided across the street at Fernley, Sir George also served as Mayor of Chichester, was knighted in 1815 and died in his native city in 1819. General Eisenhower and Montgomery met here in 1944 prior to D-Day. In 2015, the Harbour Hotel Group acquired the Ship Hotel, renaming it the Chichester Harbour Hotel and Spa. This is Fernley, the house that Richard Murray lived in from 1807. It was built by Chichester coal merchant Charles Cooper in the same year, replacing a 17th century building belonging to William Cowley, MP of Chichester in 1628. It looks like another owner is moving in right now. The distinctive flint facade was popular at the time, abundant locally, and avoided a tax that had been placed on brick during that period. Murray was elected Mayor of Chichester on 2 occasions and kept the property until his death in 1825. Chichester has a long history of inns and taverns dating back to the Middle Ages, when they provided for pilgrims visiting the shrine of St Richard in the cathedral. These establishments later accommodated all travellers seeking rest and sustenance after navigating the challenging Sussex roads. By the mid-17th century, Chichester, with a population of only 2,000, boasted 7 inns, 50 alehouses, taverns and other drinking establishments. The Old Cross was rebuilt in 1928 and given its current name in commemoration of the city's original Tudor Market Cross. Look out for the building date marker on the front, which contains 2 dice, one either side. After a little research, the 6 and the 5 denote the address, 65 North Street. As to who this chap is, who knows? Built in 1731, the Council House, designed by Roger Morris in a Palladian style, replaced the old Guildhall as the seat of Chichester County Council. In 1783, the renowned architect James Wyatt added the assembly rooms, known for hosting famous figures like composer Franz Liszt. Head under the arches to see a Roman stone dug up on this site in 1723 with an inscription relating to Neptune and Minerva. Let's head down Lion Street just off North Street. As we walk this road, we are approaching St Martin's Square, which takes its name from the 12th century church of St Martin, which still stands today but is out of sight from these roads and only accessible via St Mary's Hospital via appointment. Founded in 1269, St Mary's Hospital, also called St Mary's Almshouses, is one of England's oldest. Originally serving as a hospital for the poor and sick, especially widows, this Grade 1 listed building, likely built in the medieval tithe barn style, has seen many changes over the centuries. Today it provides accommodation for up to 40 residents with limited financial means and connections to the Chichester Diocese. The complex includes the chapel, a walled garden and a range of self-contained flats, preserving its historic character while offering modern amenities. The square is predominantly lined with elegant townhouses from the Georgian and Victorian era, showcasing a range of architectural styles. Here is the hospital walled garden, which is locked unfortunately. Let's head back along Lion Street and rejoin North Street. To your right is the Crooked S, a small alley thought to reference the butcher's shambles that were once located here. I wonder how many people pass by St Olave's Church without a second thought. Possibly built around 1050, this Saxon place of worship was dedicated to St Olaf, the Viking king of Norway, who was later recognised as a saint. It makes it one of Chichester's oldest churches. It served as a parish church for a considerable part of its history. Still retaining its nave and chancel, it is today a Christian bookshop, but is still consecrated and holds a service annually on St Olaf's Day, the 29th of July. Designed by renowned architect John Nash and built in 1808, Chichester's Market House, or the Butter Market, replaced the market cross to accommodate the city's growing trade. Commissioned by the Corporation of Chichester, it was a single-storey open hall with a colonnaded facade, providing shelter and organisation for the smaller traders selling goods like butter, eggs and poultry. In 1900, an upper storey was added to house a technical institute and art college. It now houses various businesses. We have arrived back at the Market Cross, also known as Chichester Cross. It is believed to have been built in 1501 by Bishop Edward Story. You may recall we saw his tomb beside the high altar in the cathedral. The bishop allowed poor peasants who only had a few eggs or vegetables to sell to trade without paying a toll, providing they could stand under the cross. It ceased to serve its original purpose in 1808, with the increased population of the city meant a more extensive market area was required and the butter market was built. Today it is still an important central landmark and perfect place to meet up. Having been west and north of the city, let's head along South Street, which is the road you'll walk along from the bus or railway station if you're travelling by public transport. Partway down the street we pass the Buttery Cafe, housed in a 12th century crypt or undercroft part of the cathedral buildings at the end of Vickers Close. If we take the alley beside, we are back in the Cathedral Green and can see the roof line of the Vickers Hall, built over the crypt in 1397, a medieval hall that was once the meeting place of the Vickers Choral and is still in use for private hire as a banqueting space. On our left, the Turkish restaurant was once one of the oldest inns in Chichester, dating to at least 1533. Called the White Horse, notice the window glass still features white horses. The cathedral grounds, the Vickers Close and the Bishop's Palace are all located behind the shops on the right side of South Street. Cannon Gate, which connects South Street to the Palace and Gardens, leads into Cannon Lane, and we'll loop back down Cannon Lane later when we see the Bishop's Palace Gardens. The Regnum, a private members' club, was once located at 45 South Street. The Chichester Philosophical and Literary Society resided here for around 80 years. The structure suffered severe fire damage in 1983, necessitating significant restoration. It is currently empty office space. The fountain, constructed in 1796, stands adjacent to the city walls, and Roman brickwork is visible in the back bar. The inn was operated by H.G. Wells' grandparents during the 1830s, and his mother Sarah was born there. Let's just have a quick look at the map and get our bearings. We've walked along West Street and visited the cathedral, strolled the north walls and come down North Street back into the centre, explored South Street, and now we'll follow the line of the south walls around to the Bishop's Palace Gardens, which will eventually lead us back to Canongate on South Street. We are now walking up Deanery Close, which will bring us to the remains of the southern Roman walls. This is one of the few locations in the city where the River Lavant is exposed above ground. It cuts through the east and south of the city underground in a Victorian culvert. Its course was changed in Saxon times to provide fresh water and some basic protection from Viking attacks. The area was once the water meadows of the River Lavant, known as Westgate Fields. It is now owned by the Prebendal School as their sports fields. With a public footpath following the river, the Roman south walls are visible, as is the spire of the cathedral in a glorious afternoon sun. We are now heading towards the Bishop's Palace Gardens. The Roman walls form the outer boundary of the gardens. As we pass back onto the road, this is replaced by a red brick wall as the Roman one no longer exists to maintain the boundary. Just before we arrive back at the end of Westgate, where all those roadworks were earlier, there is a discreet entrance into the Bishop's Palace Gardens. It's free to visit, and I believe it closes around dusk each day. The gardens date back to the 12th century, established shortly after the Bishop's Palace was built in 1147-48. Enclosed by the ancient city walls, they have evolved over the centuries, reflecting changing styles from formal layouts to more naturalistic designs. Of course, early January is not the best time to visit a garden, as most of the plants are hibernating. Originally a private space for the bishops, a significant portion was opened to the public in 1976, allowing the community to enjoy this historic green space. In recent years, they have been revitalised through a collaboration effort between the Friends of the Bishop's Palace Garden and Chichester District Council. This refurbishment has focused on improving accessibility, introducing new plants and water features, and creating spaces for relaxation like the Pagoda Walk. The gardens offer a tranquil escape in the heart of the city where visitors can enjoy the peaceful atmosphere, connect with nature, and appreciate the site's historical significance. Unlike Wells in Somerset, which we visited a few weeks back, the Bishop's Palace is not open to the public, but you can get a glimpse of the buildings from various gates around the gardens. The ancient stone gateway leads us onto the pretty Cannon Lane, and it's here we find the flower-lined pathway called St Richard's Walk, which brings you into the cathedral cloisters. Opposite is the deanery. Heading towards Cannon Gate, on our left is Vicar's Close. Historically, the close was accessed via a gate called the Chain Gate, located near Cannon Gate. This controlled access to the vicar's living quarters. This is one of the most beautiful and peaceful residential streets within the city. The close once consisted of 2 rows of houses, providing accommodation for around 28 vicars. They lived in simple single-room dwellings, with communal dining and activities taking place in the Vicar's Hall, the roof of which you can see ahead of us now. The Market Cross is ahead of us again for one final time as we turn right onto East Street, the last of the 4 main Roman roads in Chichester we have left to explore. Partway down East Street, just off the busy thoroughfare, is North Pallant, known for its elegant Georgian architecture, which we'll reach in a moment. A few famous street art pieces around the city can be seen here. On the side of Superdrug is this work from Stick, a London-based artist. Stick murals are found worldwide. He started painting these figures as an outlet when he was homeless. The dog is an addition. Further down on the back wall is Belgian artist Jurkem's The Watchdog, and a few other with a Banksy vibe, but I don't know the artists. Our main reason for coming down this street is the famous Pallant House Gallery, which is a world-class collection telling the story of modern British art from 1900 to now. The building's modern gallery encompasses the original Pallant House, considered to be one of the most important 18th century townhouses in England. Pallant House was built by wine merchant Henry Lisbon Peckham and his wife Elizabeth in 1713. Using the latest ideas in brick construction. His new house would have seemed pretty out of place amongst the squalid tenements, and a thorough redevelopment of the Pallants took place over the next century. The birds on the entrance piers are supposed to be ostriches, but are likened to dodos, and so the property has gained the nickname the Dodo House. The Pallants were an area once under the direct jurisdiction of the Archbishop of Canterbury and called Palatine. The name evolved into Pallants and encompasses the 4 streets we know today: North, South, East and West Pallant. This area was closely linked to the church, setting it apart from the rest of Chichester. We are walking East Pallant. Up until the beginning of the 18th century, this was a poor district, dominated by the leather industry. There was a cross where the 4 Pallants meet, from where the leather workers sold their wares. As we mentioned, this area was gentrified in the 18th century, reflecting the increased prosperity of the city, and it continued to be a desirable area for wealthy merchants and professionals. Baffin's Lane leads us back onto East Street, on the corner of which we find a distinctive building. Built in 1833 to accommodate Chichester's growing grain trade, The Corn Exchange, with its Doric columns, provided a dedicated space for farmers and merchants to conduct business. However, the agricultural depression of the late 19th century led to its decline, and it was repurposed as a cinema known as the Exchange Cinema. This closed in 1980, and since then it's been used as a retail space. It pays to look up above street level sometimes, spot the chicken wishbone hanging from the clock. From a grocery store in 1786, Shipham's grew into a renowned food manufacturer thanks to its pioneering canning techniques. The company embraced innovation, adopting sterilised glass jars and supplying provisions to the Royal Navy. Shipham's became a major Chichester employer, famous for factory tours here on the East Walls. Although production moved from this iconic factory in 2002, Shipham's remains a significant part of Chichester's history, remembered for its contribution to the city's economy and its innovative approach to food preservation. We managed to find the Eastgate plaque at this end of the city. This is Eastgate Square and the location of a sculpture depicting a youthful romantic poet, John Keats, contemplating, notebook by hand, and looking towards the cathedral. It was within the walls of this house that Keats began writing his famous narrative poem, The Eve of St. Agnes. The poem, steeped in medieval imagery and romance, is believed to have been inspired by the city's historic architecture and atmosphere. Let's look at the map again. We've now walked East Street, down through the Palance, and arrived at East Street Square. Let's walk the northeast quadrant to Priory Park, where we can see the mound that was Chichester Castle. On our right is the parish church of St Pancras, which was rebuilt in 1750, having been devastated during the English Civil War. We are now walking on the outside of the east city walls heading north. We are approaching the entrance to Priory Park. The history within this park is arguably like no other. We have Roman, Norman, Franciscan, Georgian and Victorian influences all around us. Will is going to walk one way and I'll take the other route, meeting at the Guildhall. I'm walking along a section of the north wall that hugs the park, and here the information board shows us the building of Chichester Castle, shortly after the Norman conquest in the late 11th century. It played a key role in establishing Norman control over the region. Roger de Montgomery, a powerful Norman baron and close ally of William the Conqueror, ordered the castle's construction. It was a classic Motte and Bailey design, with a raised mound, the Motte, topped with a wooden keep and a fortified courtyard, the Bailey, below. Notice in the background we can also see the cathedrals currently being built. In 1216, during the First Barons' War, the castle was briefly captured by French forces. The vulnerabilities led to King Henry III ordering its destruction the following year. And this is all that's left, just a small mound highlighting its location, obviously much smaller than it would have been. During the mid-13th century, the site was granted to the Franciscan order, Grey Friars, who built a friary on the grounds, so we'll cross over to the other side of the park to see that. What remains is believed to be the chancel, as it contains the high altar used by the resident Grey Friars. It would have been surrounded and connected by other buildings, but during the dissolution of monasteries in 1538, They were destroyed and the friary closed. The land and the remaining building passed to the Mayor of Chichester. The City Corporation bought it in 1541 and it became Law Courts and the Guildhall or Town Hall. There were some famous trials with the Hawkhurst smuggling gang sentenced here in 1749, along with the trial of poet William Blake in 1804, for which he was cleared. It's a remarkable example of early English Gothic style with its elegant proportions, lancet windows and impressive vaulted ceiling. It's such a shame that it's not open for us to go inside.
Well, that's everything to show you in the city centre, but the video's far from over. We're going to check into a hotel now. We're staying in Levant, just outside of the city centre. Got a lovely little country pub to stay in tonight. And then tomorrow we're going to carry on touring around the area. There's a couple of little villages around the area that are very pretty. And also Chichester has a harbour, and so we're going to check that as well. So we'll see in a bit when we get to the hotel.
I meant to say East Lavant, not Levant. Just before we head to our charming country pub, if you want to learn more about the city and its Roman past, visit the Novium Museum on Tower Road near the Cathedral Bell Tower. We ran out of time to explore this free museum, but there are plenty of Roman artefacts to see. Just a 2-mile drive north of the city is the Royal Oak pub where we were staying. It was in a charming setting in sleepy East Lavant and cost £106 for the night with breakfast. A gorgeous wood fire warmed us up nicely after an afternoon out in the cold January weather. We whiled away the evening stroking friendly 4-legged friends, having a few pints and dinner. We shared fish cakes and loaded hummus with fried sprouts and sumac. For mains, we both enjoyed the hearty pie of the week, which was beef pie, with seasonal veg, lashings of gravy and chips. Ice cream, coffee and a cookie biscuit helped us on our way to bed. Our room was cosy and warm with everything you need for one night away. Breakfast was full of flavour and local ingredients and set us up for the morning. Although sadly the sunny weather of Saturday had not hung around. Just before we head south of the city to see Chichester Canal, let's have a quick circular walk around this part of the village. It won't take a moment.
A pheasant on the roof, look. VR Victoria Regina. It's an old post box. Not what you'd expect to find in a field in Chichester. It's a rhino, but there we go.
A 5-minute walk south of Chichester Station is the Canal Basin. There is a cafe and small heritage centre in a 19th century stable block telling the history of the canal. The Portsmouth and Arundel Canal, including a branch to Chichester, was designed by John Rennie and opened in April 1822. The canal's construction led to economic growth in Chichester, with new businesses such as warehouses, flour mills, coal and timber merchants and boat builders establishing around the basin. Financial issues caused the closure of the main Portsmouth and Arundel Canal in 1858, although the Chichester branch remained operational. Competition from the railways resulted in a gradual decline in trade. Commercial traffic on the canal stopped in 1906, and it was officially abandoned for trade in 1928. Restoration efforts began in the 70s with the goal of preserving the canal's heritage and promoting its use for leisure activities, and today the canal is a popular destination for boat trips, water sports, walking, cycling and wildlife observations, and I'm certain that it's particularly busy in the summer months. On the towpath of the basin, you can see 4 sculptures, the life cycle of the butterfly designed by artist Steve Tomlinson. Chichester Harbour area of outstanding natural beauty covers some 74 kilometres square, 46 miles square, a unique area of land and sea. We've arrived at Itchenor to get a closer look at this part of the waterway. Even at this time of year, small boats will take you out bird watching if you arrive in time. Its shoreline offers stunning views of the harbour with salt marshes, mud flats and creeks teeming with wildlife. When the Romans came to this area, they built the Fishbourne Roman Palace just a mile outside the city. Sadly, it's closed until mid-February, but well worth a visit for a further Roman fix. As Chichester developed in the 10th century, the principal landing place was Dell Quay, once the 6th most important port in England, with goods then transported by road to the town. In the summer, the village of Itchenor is popular with sailing and visitors coming to take the 400-year-old ferry service across the water to Ferry Hard at the foot of Smuggler's Lane, from which you can walk into the charming village of Bosham. We have our car, so we'll drive. The picturesque and thriving sailing centre of Bosham is located on a Chichester harbour inlet. This small, attractive village is an important part of the country's history. It is believed that when the Romans arrived, Vespasian, before becoming emperor, had a villa on Bosham. A favourite haunt for artists and photographers, and a sanctuary for migrating wildfowl, shell ducks, geese and waders, to name but a few. Make sure you use the village car park, a road back from Shore Road. Whilst the roads at the water's edge look like a great place to park and will undoubtedly be pretty free of traffic, it floods twice a day with the tide and you don't want to watch your car getting washed away. Apologies for the darkness, it looks like dusk but was lunchtime. The moody grey clouds just seem to hang over the village all day. Let's make our way around Shore Road to the quay. The legend says that King Canute, in an attempt to demonstrate his human limitations, placed his throne by the shoreline at Bossum and commanded the tide to stop. However, it continued to rise, ignoring his orders, proving that even a king cannot control the forces of nature. It is also said that his daughter tragically drowned here in the mill stream and is buried in the church. More on that story in a minute. A mill has stood on this site for over 1,000 years, its presence recorded in the Domesday Book as one of 8 mills operating within the parish. It served the community by grinding flour for bread, its wheel powered by water from a mill pond located behind the church. Sadly, the pond has long since vanished. The last miller to work here, George Brown, continued the tradition of grinding grain, specifically maize, until 1925, making the end of an era for this historic site. The quay is pretty quiet at this time of year, but as the weather improves, it will be a hive of activity for the local sailing club, which moved into the old mill in 1956. It is a safe harbour for boats, dinghies, kayaks and paddleboards with 2 slipways. Sometime around 681 AD, St Wilfrid arrived in Sussex as part of his mission to convert the local inhabitants. Bossum became an early centre of Christianity in Sussex. Bede, in his 8th century writings, mentions a small monastery here, likely on the site of the current church Holy Trinity. The first building we know of for certain dates to the 10th century. Traces of that Saxon building remain in the lower courses of the stonework in the west tower. The Bayeux Tapestry illustrates Harold, Earl of Wessex and soon to be King of England, visiting Bossum in 1064, before his unfortunate journey to Normandy. The tapestry depicts the chancel arch, which may still be the same one visible today. The 1086 Domesday Book recorded Bossum as one of the wealthiest manors in England, and the villagers certainly had a beautifully crafted church to worship in. The pulpit was carved in 1905 from oak beams taken from the tower in a renovation. We mentioned King Canute's daughter possibly being buried in the church according to some stories. In 1865, a small stone coffin was found near the chancel arch, the skeleton fitting a small female child. Does that add credence to the story? We've only walked a few of the lanes and walkways of the village. There are several more you can discover, and also follow walking trails all around the harbour area. There are a few pubs and this small popular cafe to get food and drink.
Well, we're going to head off now from Bossum. It's been a lovely little tour around the village to end our video of Chichester. I hope you've enjoyed being with us today. We've got lots more like this on the channel, so do join us again. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and we'll see you again on another video soon. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.